When the sealed report landed in a journalist's inbox under the alias Obsidian Raven, no one could have foreseen the avalanche it would trigger inside Buckingham Palace. Crafted by Prince William himself, the report held chilling details of a covert plan masterminded by Camilla that threatened the very equilibrium of the royal family. Now, with the nation watching, the palace is not just shaken, it's on the brink of implosion. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The digital file arrived without warning, cloaked in layers of encryption and marked with an ominous subject line, Windsor Eyes Only. As decrypted, the contents burst like a firestorm, 14 classified sections, 87 pages, and Camilla'S name appearing 36 times. The report bore a single, unmistakable signature, W.A. Wales. Royal insiders scrambled to confirm what seemed impossible, that the future king had deliberately compiled and leaked an intelligence dossier implicating the current queen consort in what was described within as a multi-phase destabilization effort. Not just rumors, not just politics. This was a royal reckoning. Word spread rapidly through the palace's inner corridors. Staffers whispered the phrase, Windsor collapse, with hushed dread. Security protocols were heightened. Personal assistants were summoned to burn rooms. Camilla, reportedly preparing for an appearance at a private luncheon, was instead pulled into an urgent strategy meeting behind locked doors. The mood was not defensive, it was explosive. Those closest to the king were said to be in states of pure disbelief. No one had anticipated this, not from William, and certainly not now. Questions rose like smoke from a fire with no clear origin. What pushed William to this extreme act? Was this the culmination of years of silent observation? Was it born of loyalty to the crown, or desperation to protect his own branch of the family from being eclipsed? The report hinted at both. One section titled Windsor Continuity Preservation Measures detailed Camilla'S influence over council restructuring, while another, unmonitored patronage transfers, referenced her alleged quiet removal of Princess Anne and Prince Edward from ceremonial planning bodies. Each entry was time-stamped, footnoted, and marked classified internal. This wasn't gossip, it was strategy, unmasked. One phrase in particular rocked the foundation of tradition: intentional destabilization of sovereign lines of duty. Those words, attached to Camilla'S calendar, were accompanied by attached transcripts of discussions reportedly recorded during her closed-door meetings with private advisors. The ramifications were instantaneous. Palace aides were seen clearing entire sections of the press office. Camilla'S name was abruptly removed from 3 planned ceremonial appearances. Charles, according to a senior aide, looked as if a ghost had whispered treason in his ear. Yet through all the frenzy, William remained silent. And it was that silence that was perhaps most deafening. It wasn't just a report, it was a message. William's document did not ask for an inquiry. It was the inquiry. Every page read like a ticking clock. Every section closed with the same note: to protect the line must act. Those words now echoed through the palace with increasing weight. And while the world braced for answers, the family braced for fractures that might never be mended. But while the leak stunned the public, those within palace walls knew this wasn't new. It was a detonation years in the making. Camilla'S rise to power was no accident. Behind the ceremonial gowns and practiced poise, insiders whisper of a deliberate strategic advance masked as royal duty. Now, the leaked report reveals a chilling timeline of decisions, contacts, and exclusions that, piece by piece, formed the hidden architecture of her long game. In the immediate aftermath of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, the nation witnessed a carefully choreographed transition. But behind the black veils and polished appearances, something else was unfolding. According to the report, it was in these first days that Camilla began to extend her influence beyond traditional consort duties, orchestrating a quiet but intentional restructuring of the monarchy's internal power grid. Meetings were held under the guise of legacy planning. Patronages were shifted with little explanation, and those once considered untouchable like Princess Anne and Prince Edward found themselves slowly pushed away from decision-making arenas they had long safeguarded. Their access to key archival documents, especially those held in the private Elizabethan vaults, was reportedly revoked without formal review. William's report called it a constitutional decapitation, carried out in silence, one name repeatedly. Appeared in the annex of appointments and visit logs, a discreet cultural attaché tied to 2 foreign foundations with influence across European monarchist societies. Camilla, often accompanied by only a single advisor, reportedly held private dinners with these figures, discussions that never made it into official palace logs. The leaked report labels this as external consensus building, an effort to quietly align influential voices around her version of modern monarchy. She wasn't gathering allies, she was building insulation. But the centerpiece of William's suspicion was something he described as the engine room of it all, a phrase repeated in his footnotes, the foundation circle. This entity, according to the report, operated without oversight, comprised of 5 high-ranking advisors with ties to charitable networks, diplomatic arms, and cultural agencies. The foundation circle allegedly coordinated initiatives to reframe Camilla as not just queen consort, but as a central authority figure in heritage policy, protocol realignment, and even succession optics. When the press began referring to Camilla as the crown's moral steward, it wasn't a compliment. It was a signal that the campaign was working. Perhaps most chilling, though, was the mention of a document titled Appendix Clarion II. Buried deep in the final section of the leaked report, this mysterious file remains unseen, unconfirmed, and yet profoundly ominous. According to William's intelligence notes, this appendix allegedly outlines alternative governance adaptations in the event of a crown trust, crisis-coded language, suggesting a contingency plan for bypassing traditional heirs. Whether the document exists or not, the mere fact that William believed in its existence was enough to accelerate everything that followed. For Camilla, it may have been a blueprint. For William, it was a red line crossed. Why? Camilla orchestrated her silent climb. William was watching, compiling evidence, tracking movements, and waiting for his moment. Far from the public eye, Prince William established a confidential circle of allies, former royal aides, archivists, and a cybersecurity analyst. Bound by oath and operating under midnight codes, this group meticulously pieced together what would become the most consequential document in royal memory, the Windsor Stabilization Report. It didn't begin as an exposé. It began as a whisper, a small inconsistency in a ceremonial record, a missed signature, a missing transcript from a council session where Camilla's name had surfaced unexpectedly. William, long aware of the undercurrents within the palace, chose not to confront the changes publicly. Instead, he turned inward, assembling a trusted team willing to operate in the shadows. A retired Windsor archivist, a former MI5 intelligence strategist with royal clearance, and a digital forensic analyst were among the first brought into what would be called the Raven Circle. Their objective wasn't to dismantle, it was to preserve. To protect the crown not from external threats, but from one they feared had emerged from within. The investigation quickly escalated. Secretly recorded voice memos, recovered from misrouted palace communications, revealed unusual patterns in Camilla's meeting schedule. Coded references to transitional legacy efforts and custodial redrafting procedures appeared repeatedly. One recording, dated just 6 weeks after Queen Elizabeth II's passing, included a chilling line attributed to one of Camilla's legal advisors. "We'll have it aligned by mid-year. There'll be no stopping her if it's signed quietly." William's team cross-referenced these statements with ceremonial logs and found multiple discrepancies, events listed as joint engagements where only Camilla appeared, and directives quietly issued to remove access rights from certain royals. Meetings were held in the unlikeliest of places, Balmoral's East Wing during the off-season, and deep inside the Clarence House vault, behind shelves that once held Queen Mary's private letters. There, William was shown a locked file labeled Reorg DX7, which included a preliminary sketch of what appeared to be a royal restructuring initiative. The titles of senior figures, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and even Catherine, were placed under re-evaluation columns, replaced by unfamiliar names tied to international foundations. While the document was unsigned, metadata traced it to a private legal firm recently linked to Camilla's charitable circle. The web was widening. Perhaps most startling to William, though, was the discovery of blocked educational funding tied to Catherine's development programs. Two initiatives, both focused on child literacy and early development, had been halted due to unexplained budget realignment authorized by a signature that did not pass through William's office. The financial trail led back to a discretionary account controlled exclusively by the Queen Consort's Advisory Board. For William, this wasn't just sabotage, it was war quiet, calculated, and expertly disguised beneath layers of protocol. Each coded message, each shredded memo recovered from burn bins, painted a picture not of coincidence but of orchestration. The investigation, once cautious, became relentless. It wasn't about who Camilla was, it was about what she was building behind the veil of tradition. And when William finally gathered enough evidence to see the pattern in full, what emerged was no longer theory, it was structure, an intentional, carefully executed campaign to shift authority away from the future monarch and toward a parallel construct, crafted under the guise of modernization but rooted in something far more dangerous. The deeper William's team dug, the more disturbing the pattern became until one discovery shattered the threshold of secrecy. Buried within the report's annexes was a startling codename, Crown Transfer Protocol. A 12-page plan, allegedly drafted by Camilla'S legal counsel, detailed scenarios in which royal responsibilities would shift away from William and toward a parallel authority centered around Camilla herself. The implications were devastating. What William's inner circle discovered wasn't merely a trail of power plays or influence-seeking. This was structure architected, deliberate, and devastating in its clarity. The document labeled CTP-4C outlined what appeared to be a contingency mechanism that, under the guise of modernization and symbolic realignment, would dissolve three ceremonial councils' bodies historically overseen by heirs to the throne, and reconstitute them under new leadership. Notably, all three were to be chaired by individuals either directly linked to Camilla or operating within her patronage network. The language was vague enough to seem reformist, but specific enough to imply a seismic shift in royal precedence. It wasn't just policy, it was a power coup, dressed in polite constitutional phrases. Even more chilling were the proposed adjustments to Prince George and Princess Charlotte's royal development. According to the document, both children would, in the event of a transitionary realignment, be removed from direct oversight by William and Catherine and placed under the supervision of an external heritage advisory committee. This body, again, was to be composed entirely of figures outside the traditional Windsor framework names associated with heritage diplomacy, aristocratic academies, and international royal advisory boards. In short, Camilla'S blueprint would reroute the heir's education, public appearances, and symbolic roles away from the Wales household and into her constructed infrastructure. William, upon reading this, reportedly wrote in the margins, "Unthinkable. George is mine to guide. This will never happen." But the document's climax came with one line that sent a shockwave through the review circle. In Section 11, a direct clause named Camilla as eligible for symbolic sovereign custodianship in the event of sustained sovereign incapacitation or transition. It bypassed Charles. It bypassed William. It gave her, under a legal veil, a shadow throne without coronation, without mandate, and without precedent. The source of the legal grounding? A quiet routing through two barristers in Edinburgh, experts in Crown estate restructuring and historical charters, both of whom had reportedly met with Camilla twice in private under the premise of discussing charitable trusts. There was no longer any room for speculation. William's team had uncovered a silent, systematic attempt to reposition the monarchy's internal power map. It wasn't just about titles. It was about the line of succession, the symbolism of leadership, and the authority to define the crown itself. His handwritten annotations scrawled across the back pages revealed a mind caught between fury and urgency. This is unconstitutional, dangerous, preemptive action needed. There was no diplomatic path now. Camilla'S vision for the monarchy had crossed the line from ambition into subversion. As this unthinkable plan surfaced, palace corridors erupted not just with disbelief, but with rage and betrayal. In the hours after the leak, Camilla did not retreat, she retaliated. Her closest advisors, long silent in the shadows, issued a defiant counter-narrative. But behind closed doors, cracks appeared. Staff departures, muffled arguments, and a single quote from Camilla'S secretary sent chills through Clara. "Ents house. He's gone too far." The Queen Consort's official response was swift and sharp. A public statement released through her office just 12 hours after the Windsor Stabilization Report hit global headlines denounced the contents as a fabrication designed to divide, not protect. It accused unnamed palace figures an unmistakable nod to William of engaging in destabilizing behavior for personal political advantage. The message was calculated. Camilla wasn't denying involvement in private meetings or influence over certain royal circles. She was denying intent, but the tone was unmistakably defiant, and with it came the unmistakable scent of open civil war within the monarchy's own walls. What followed only escalated tensions further. Leaked audio believed to have been captured during a confidential strategy session surfaced online within hours. In it, Camilla'S voice could be heard, tense and clipped. "He will regret this. If he thinks I will step aside, he doesn't understand how fragile this house already is." The recording, brief but explosive, confirmed to many that the conflict had moved beyond protocol and perception. It was personal. And once that line was crossed, the royal family's tradition of silence fractured under pressure. Inside Clarence's house, resignations began rolling in. 2 senior members of Camilla'S patronage team, individuals who had served her loyally since her earliest royal engagements, quietly stepped away. Officially, they cited health reasons and a need for private time. But insiders revealed a different truth. They were uncomfortable with the tone of Camilla'S response and alarmed by what they'd seen in the leaked documents. As one former aide allegedly confided to a journalist, it was no longer about defending the monarchy. It was about defending power. Perhaps most symbolically damaging, however, were the quiet moves mad. By Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Normally distant from internal feuds, the 2 York sisters were said to have cancelled an appearance that Camilla was scheduled to co-host. Their social media accounts quietly unfollowed one of her foundation's pages, and a source close to Eugenie confirmed that they didn't want to be seen endorsing anything until the truth is clear. In a family where public unity is paramount, even such subtle steps spoke volumes. Within the Privy Council, a bitter divide emerged. Advisors were split. Some insisted that William had done irreversible damage to the Crown's credibility. Others argued he had exposed the very rot that would have destroyed it from within. The debate wasn't just about loyalty, it was about the survival of the institution itself. For years, royal politics had played out behind velvet curtains and stone walls. But now, every whisper had become a roar, every shadow a battlefield. Camilla had expected criticism, even some outrage, but what she hadn't anticipated was the isolation. One by one, familiar faces were disappearing. Long-trusted voices were going quiet, and in the moments between official statements and rehearsed defiance, there were murmurs deep and unrelenting that this time, she may not be able to outmaneuver what had been set in motion. Her power was vast, but it was now under siege from within the family itself. But if Camilla believed she could withstand the storm, she hadn't counted on the one figure whose silence would now shatter everything. King Charles, once the cornerstone of regal restraint, was seen openly weeping in the Blue Room. Sources close to the monarch describe a man crushed between loyalty and law. The leak didn't just expose Camilla'S plan, it forced Charles to face an unbearable question. Had his own wife undermined the crown? Within an hour of the Windsor Stabilization Report's content reaching senior advisors, the king cancelled 3 scheduled meetings and ordered all calls redirected. Witnesses said he walked in silence through the East Wing, stopped at the Queen Mother's portrait, and entered the Blue Room without a word. The door remained closed for hours. Inside he read every line, every annotation, every footnote William had scrawled with fury and fear. A monarch trained for duty now faced the unimaginable betrayal within his own bedchamber. It was not merely the idea of Camilla'S plan that shattered him, it was the chilling possibility that it had existed right under his watch, layered beneath his trust, masked by devotion. What tore through Charles's mind was not just shock but memory. One of his valets later revealed that the king pulled out a sealed envelope from a locked drawer, an archived memo from Queen Elizabeth II herself. In it, the late Queen warned, in uncharacteristically direct language, of the creeping danger of influences cloaked in personal ambition. No name was mentioned, but the Queen, always the quiet sentry of the crown, had seen the signs. Charles, until now, had refused to believe them, and now the words burned into his conscience with unbearable weight. Later that evening, he summoned Princess Anne. The conversation was short, but its echo still reverberates. "What have I allowed to happen?" he asked, voice barely audible. Anne, the one royal who never flinched from speaking hard truths, said only this: "Then make it right before someone else does." That sentence, some say, was what forced Charles to act. He demanded access to the original report, not the summaries, not the press copies, but William's private draft. He wanted the ink marks, the handwriting, the margins where his son had spilled not just data, but anguish. As he read, his hands reportedly trembled. Pages were turned slowly, methodically, if each word wounded deeper than the last. His silence was not passive, it was the scream of a monarch, realizing the ground beneath his reign had shifted beyond repair. Medical staff were placed on standby. The king had not eaten, not spoken publicly, and his private secretary was seen pacing outside the Blue Room for nearly an hour. But Charles refused intervention. He sat with the report long into the night. When he finally emerged, he spoke only once, giving a single directive that changed the pace of everything: summon the Privy Council. 48 hours, no delays. The message spread through the palace like thunder across a brittle sky. But while Charles reeled in anguish, another royal was preparing to act not with emotion, but with precision and resolve. With the monarchy teetering, Catherine convened a closed-door emergency summit inside Windsor's inner chamber. Only 8 were summoned. What unfolded behind those oak-panelled walls would reshape the monarchy's future and cement her as the new axis of royal trust and authority. While Charles wrestled with personal agony, it was Catherine who moved with quiet precision. She issued the summons herself, bypassing traditional courtiers. There would be no press, no notes, no ceremonial deference. Those chosen to attend, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, Lady Louise, and 2 legal observers unaffiliated with palace structures entered Windsor that evening under total media blackout. The atmosphere was not tense, it was surgical. Catherine made clear from the outset that this was not a meeting for grief or speculation. It was a tribunal for clarity, and she would not tolerate delay. The stabilization report, still scorched with William's furious annotations, lay at the center of the table, and in her voice there was no hesitation, only command. They began with the most volatile passages. Line by line, the group read each R. All the annexes detailing Camilla'S alleged restructuring efforts, her influence over education directives, and the now infamous crown transfer protocol. The air thickened with every paragraph. The legal observers, one a constitutional scholar, the other a former royal ethics advisor, confirmed what William feared. Several clauses, if enacted, would pose a direct threat to the traditional flow of authority. Anne's face remained unreadable, but Edward reportedly uttered just one word: catastrophic. Still, it was Catherine's next move that changed the course of the conversation entirely. Without warning, she offered to act as a neutral arbiter. The proposal stunned the room. Catherine, who had every right to be the most aggrieved, chose instead to rise above. She declared that personal bias must be removed from any path forward. Her role, she insisted, would not be that of heir's wife or mother to the next king. It would be one of stabilizer, a protector of the crown's integrity, not its emotion. Even Anne, whose reputation for skepticism was ironclad, nodded in solemn agreement. The group worked late into the night. Discussions circled legality, legacy, and legitimacy. When the silence finally settled, one conclusion emerged: this cannot be ignored without consequence. To do so would fracture the institution beyond repair, and so, in that room, lit by duty rather than tradition, a document was born. Drafted with the quiet urgency of crisis, it bore the title Protocol Windsor, Interim Order of Stabilization. It did not name guilt. It did not assign punishment. but it recommended immediate suspension of certain ceremonial privileges, temporary reassignment of custodial titles, and most importantly, a formal review of the Crown's internal governance, to be conducted outside Camilla'S influence. By dawn, the draft had been encrypted and submitted to the King's private chamber. William had not been present, but he was told in 6 words that would echo for decades, "She's taken control. It's begun." Even as royal unity began to reform, the cost of truth had only just begun to echo through the gilded halls of power. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Camilla was relieved from 3 ceremonial roles in under 24 hours. Her access to key archives was revoked. Behind palace walls, portraits were quietly moved. A sealed letter was sent to the Speaker of Parliament. And the public? They had only seen the beginning. What unfolded in those first 48 hours was not just damage control, it was institutional containment. Following the emergency summit at Windsor, Charles signed a temporary order silent, unannounced, to suspend Camilla'S remaining appearances as Queen Consort until further notice. Her name was immediately removed from several upcoming royal charters. Meetings scheduled with cultural partners and foreign dignitaries were cancelled without explanation. Behind the scenes, palace staff were instructed to pause all digital references to her roles in ceremonial functions. It wasn't exile, but it was unmistakably a controlled retreat. Her presence was being scaled back with surgical precision. Perhaps most symbolically, the royal archives were reassigned that same morning. Custodianship, once under Camilla'S patronage and quietly leveraged during her alleged consolidation efforts, was handed over to Prince Edward and Lady Louise. The move stunned even senior courtiers. Edward, long viewed as the silent protector of Windsor tradition, and Louise, newly elevated by quiet counsel, represented not just a generational bridge, but a deliberate reversal. With their hands now controlling access to historical records, the palace was sending a message: the rewriting of legacy would not continue unchecked. But this wasn't just about roles and duties, it was about the Crown's visual memory. Staff in charge of interior placements began rearranging portraits across royal residences. Camilla'S framed presence was quietly removed from key gallery corridors, replaced by historical images of Queen Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. One particular piece, a framed photograph of Camilla wearing the Queen Mother's brooch, was taken down and replaced by a blank space. By afternoon, the brooch itself had been returned to the vault, logged in under temporary neutral custody without formal notice. There were no press releases, no ceremonial handovers. The silence said everything. Behind closed doors, whispers grew louder. A formal review of titles was reportedly under consideration. Legal teams had begun drafting frameworks for evaluating all peerages connected to secondary consorts. And most shocking of all, a sealed letter was confirmed to have been delivered to the Speaker of Parliament, its contents unknown, but believed to include proposed protocols for limiting future ceremonial influence in times of internal royal investigations. The Crown was not collapsing. It was recoding itself for survival. In the media, the picture was different. Controlled blackouts were enforced. Footage of Camilla'S past events began vanishing from palace. Linked social pages. Official YouTube channels removed several highlight reels of her engagements. Requests for comment from royal spokespeople were met with a new phrase: "The matter is under internal review." The press, long divided in their loyalties, now found themselves frozen. Access had been curtailed. The inner circle had locked its doors. ND finally. As the sun dipped behind the turrets of Windsor, William arrived at the Royal Archives. He did not speak to press, did not offer a glance. In his hands, a velvet pouch. Inside it, the original report. Not the summaries, not the leak, but the full annotated dossier that started it all. He handed it to the Royal Archivist in person. It was registered, sealed, and secured for permanent record. An artifact of power, betrayal, and reckoning. ND yet, as the royal world begins to stabilize, one chilling question remains: who else knew and stayed silent? As the storm settles, an anonymous source claims that a second report exists, one focused not on Camilla, but on a former royal who's been watching from exile. If true, the monarchy's reckoning has only just begun. And the next name to surface ignite a firestorm unlike any before. You read in the metadata of William's leaked report, analysts discovered a cryptic footnote labeled Windsor Directive 2. It was referenced only once, tucked between redacted summaries and handwritten marginalia. But the implication was staggering. This wasn't the end of the investigation. It was merely the first installment. Whispers suggest that while Camilla'S plans had consumed the Crown's immediate attention, William had compiled a secondary file, one far more volatile, tethered not to internal protocol, but to a royal figure now living far beyond the gates of Windsor. Interceptions of palace-adjacent correspondence confirmed what many feared. Communications between Montecito and certain UK press liaisons had been flagged for unusual traffic. 3 encrypted messages relayed through unregistered channels had been detected, all referencing sovereign positioning, media leverage, and succession optics. The language wasn't just diplomatic, it was tactical, and it forced palace intelligence to raise internal threat levels, prompting sweeping surveillance audits and an immediate lockdown of sensitive communications. Mobile devices were confiscated. Access to the royal archives was temporarily frozen, even for those with the highest clearance. Nothing was to leak, not now. Then came Catherine's unexpected move. A discreet trip to Balmoral, unannounced and unpublicized, raised new suspicions. Why return there, alone, just days after stabilizing the Windsor crisis? Some believe she was searching for something, perhaps a document Elizabeth had hidden, or a recorded directive few even knew existed. Those close to her have remained silent, but one aide was overheard saying, "She knows what's next, and it won't be her who stops it." Meanwhile, tension between Anne and Charles has escalated quietly. Conflicting views on the future of royal succession have caused a rare rift between the siblings. Anne, ever the pragmatist, has pushed for firm legal restructuring. Charles, still emotionally frayed, has resisted. But in the background, another name continues to echo, one not yet spoken aloud, but growing louder with every passing hour. And then came the final whisper delivered by a courier known only to a single archivist. A velvet envelope, unlabeled but unmistakable in origin, was stored under code protocol in Windsor's East Wing vault. Its title, never confirmed officially, has now become legend among palace insiders, Final Guardian Protocol. Its contents remain unseen, its purpose unknown. But if it mirrors the language of the stabilization report, it may contain not just history but a warning. One truth has shattered the palace. But in the shadows, another may be waiting, and its reveal could change everything once again. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.